Australia, we're starting with the news. In our first story, the Ghana Bar Association is urging political actors to be responsible citizens ahead of election 2020. Now, the association made this call at an event to mark 38 years since the gruesome murder of the 3 judges. The president of the association, Anthony Forson Jr., says the only way Ghana could remain peaceful before, during and after the 2020 elections is for citizens to be tolerant. Joseph Akable has more.
Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana is doing this on behalf of the judiciary.
Their monuments stand meters away from Ghana's apex courts. Justices Pokusa Akodie, Grantin Ado, and Kojoe J. Ejapon. The Bar Association marked the day with a wreath-laying ceremony at the 4 courts of the Supreme Court. Chief Justice Kwesi Eninieboa was joined by the Attorney General, Gloria Kufu, and family of the late judges to mark the day.
The third Pokusa Akodie, on behalf of all the bereaved families.
The second part of the event was a church service at the Red Church with President Akufo-Addo in attendance.
As we go out there in our campaigns, let us avoid the politics of insult and deceit. Let us avoid the politics of personal attacks. Let us avoid all these things. That is when we would be calling for justice and righteousness to roll like a living stream.
As Stephen was being stoned to death, he called out, "Lord Jesus, please welcome me." He knelt down and shouted, "Lord, don't blame them for what they have done." Then he died. This is the word of the Lord.
President of the GBA seized the occasion to urge legal practitioners not to abandon the principles of truth and integrity.
As we celebrated our departed colleagues, it is imperative that we devote ourselves to the promotion and sustenance of peace and tolerance in our dear country. Let us perform our duties without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and pledge to uphold the tenets of the 1992 Constitution, especially tolerance towards divergent views and a rededication towards making our nation great and strong in oneness.
He also called for tolerance ahead of election 2020.
It is imperative to address the very avoidable tensions in the country as we approach the 2020 elections. We call upon all actors, especially in the political space, to conduct their activities with a view to ensuring smooth and peaceful elections. All actors must constantly remind themselves of their duty to be responsible citizens. Indeed, at this time when we find ourselves in the thick of a pandemic with really no vaccine in sight, more than ever we should be each other's keeper and ensure that the vulnerable in the society are helped and covered. Public servants ought to remember that they are supposed to serve the public, whose taxes are used to remunerate them. Their actions must engender utmost confidence in the citizenry, who reciprocally must act with responsibility and respect.
And we have to take you to the Upper West region, where the director of the region's Electoral Commission, Ali Usmanu Adamu, says his outfit will surmount challenges faced on the first day of the voter registration exercise to ensure subsequent days are smoother. Prospective registrants from the region crowded registration centers over an hour before the exercise began in the early part of Monday or Tuesday in all 120 registration centers in the region. Our lead correspondent, Rafiq Salam, brings us more from Wa.
Most of the 120 registration centers in the Upper West region started the exercise on time. For some of the prospective registrants, they were at the centers at least an hour to the start-up time of 7 a.m. At the Wa High Court Registration Center, a dozen of prospective registrants were at the center earlier than the start-up time. They waited patiently for the registration officials to arrive and then set up the machines for the exercise. Mubarak Salifu came to the center a couple of hours to the startup time, and his dream was to be the first to register, but that dream, however, hit a snag. He neither had a national identification card nor a valid Ghanaian passport. He had to go through hell before he was registered.
So it has been very difficult in the sense that the time they started to fill the the guarantors form, and up to the time they finished, it took some time because it was like they had to consult one person or the other because of the fact that I was the first person who actually came to register without the Ghana card.
Apart from the slow pace of the exercise, which the prospective registrants complain about, the Electoral Commission scored high marks according to teacher Na Ibrahim Kader for the provision of personal protective equipment.
There is provision for a Veronica bucket filled with water and there is soap. So everybody has to wash their hands under running water with soap. And the sanitizer too, I am told, is there, even though I didn't personally apply it. And then the security persons came around a while ago to ensure that people were observant of the social distancing protocol. But as to whether that is effective or not, we can all see it for ourselves.
The situation at the Wali Mairi Ahmadiyya mosque was not different. Immediately after the dawn of Fajr prayers, the women started queuing for the exercise. Their male counterparts later joined them. The thermometer gun, Veronica bucket, and the hand sanitizer were in place. The exercise there was smooth, and the prospective registrants had no qualm about the process. Moving to the Sisala East Municipality, which has 9 of the 120 registration centers in the region, the situation there was orderly, except for some few misunderstandings, which got some of the prospective registrants to raise their voices against each other. Here at the Tumu Ahmadiyya Central Mosque, there was a disagreement as to whether to allow 2 visually impaired persons to register at the center when the EC had made arrangements for them at the municipal office. The presiding officer, Philemon Anaba, however, intervened and they were allowed to register. Upper West Regional Director of the Electoral Commission, Ali Usman Adamu, in an exclusive interview with Joy News, stated that despite the minor challenges experienced in day one, the exercise, to a large extent, was however successful.
A lot of them are registering fantastic numbers. On my rounds, I found that a lot of the police registration centers were registering 60, 70 something. That was around 12:30, 1 o'clock. You know, the numbers are very encouraging, and I think it will go a long way.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Now let's turn our attention to some education. And there was a sharp contrast between one private school and a public one at Bolga in the Upper East region as the final year students returned to school. Now, while the pupils of the Great Victory Academy, the private school, were provided face masks and hand-washing facilities by their school heads, their counterparts at Kalbio, Tindong, Soligo, JHS, a public school located in the same area, did not have face masks nor access to hand-washing facilities. Correspondent Albert Sorry visited the 2 schools and now brings you the contrast.
I decided to look at one community where access to water has always been a challenge, and that is the Tindong Sobligo community. I decided to compare 2 of the schools located in that area. That is the Great Victory Academy School, which is a private school, and then the Kalbion Tindong Sobligo Basic School, which is a public school, just to see the difference in terms of what authorities are doing to keep the children safe as they return to school in the wake of this coronavirus pandemic. Now, at the Great Victory Academy, which is the private school, the authorities there have managed to provide face masks for the pupils as they return to school. They've also provided water and some hand washing facilities. So I spoke to the director of the school, Mr. Chris Akuba.
The number of students we have as candidates are 76. out of which 71 students have reported as we speak. We have put in several protocols related to COVID-19. One of such is that we have constructed a place for the students to wash their hands, and 4 children can wash at the same time. The school has a resident nurse, and he takes their temperature with a temperature gun before they move into their classrooms. We are 76, so we have 25 in each class, 25 and then 26. The school has made available nose masks to every student. We are waiting for the president to make available the one he promised all basic schools. In fact, as we speak, everything has been put in place for academic work to begin. We have all teaching staff available who have started teaching strictly by the timetable that was issued.
Now, for the peoples of Great Victory, they didn't have much to complain about.
I feel safe, or I know that we feel safe in the environment because of the measures put in place. This time we have been distant, and we are observing the protocols. We sanitize our hands, we wash regularly. When we move out and we come back, we do something. And also, we do not move to other seats, we stay at our seats.
Now, in a sharp contrast, however, at the Calbion Tindon Sublegal Basic School, which is located in the same area, what you realize is that just about 1 or 2 of the pupils in the class were wearing face masks.
We were believing that the government will provide us some face masks or nose masks, but when we came to school and we've seen that the government have not yet provided, and we are asking if the government can provide us the nose mask very quick.
We feel insecure. One of our teachers just came and told us that because we are not wearing the face mask, she will not teach.
There was a borehole in front of the school, which I was thinking the pupils would be using when it comes to washing their hands. But in my interaction with them, what they said was that the borehole had actually not been working effectively of late.
The borehole is for the community, but then the students are also using it, and as of now, it's not functioning well. Yes, when you are pumping it, you get to some time that the water will not be flowing, and for right now, it's not useful.
So, because of the challenge with the borehole, what they did actually was to get some 2 plastic buckets, which they filled with water, and then with an ablution container, and then some soap. They tried to wash their hands. That was just a sort of emergency measure that they came up with just to manage for the meantime. From the Upper East Regional Capital here in Bolgatanga, my name is Albert Sori, reporting for Joy News.
The level guide you to know a certain what or the utility of what the item.
What a contrast. A typical case of the Dabi and the hustlers. But as we move on, still focusing on education, as final year junior high school students nationwide return to school, they will be expected to protect themselves enough to avoid a COVID-19 ambush. So that will be double burden as they also prepare for their final examinations in September. The threat of coronavirus must, however, be diffused first in order to build the morale needed to face their BEC. Love FM's Chrissy Deborah has more.
While some school authorities have received anti-COVID-19 sanitary materials, others say they are yet to get their supplies. The most challenging issue confronting teachers and students, perhaps, is how to get the classrooms tidy for occupation. Some students were seen doing the cleaning themselves. As Asokwa Municipal Director of Education, Ebenezer Otain provides some answers.
At Aja MAJHS, Stella Hagan, a Form 3 student, stands alone on the compound about 7:30 a.m. when I visited the school. No teacher, no colleagues. She has been here for almost an hour, waiting for them to show up.
I came at 6 o'clock and the compound is very dense. I don't see my friend in the compound.
All the doors of the one-story school block are closed. About 1.5 kilometers away, students and teachers at KNUST JHS are undergoing temperature checks. A Veronica bucket with liquid soap and tissue sits at the entrance. Eric Otiata is assistant head teacher for JHS.
Directly to a new class. Originally, you know that the size should be about 30 maximum. So in our case, we have about 23 on the average in a class. The teachers are on standby to usher the students to the various classes.
Though government had directed 30 pupils per class, KNUST has 23, with one classroom separating each class on a block.
And the teachers are standing at the entrance of each classroom to ask the children to go in the classrooms to written their names and their seat numbers. So the teachers will direct you to your seat and you sit down quietly and start reading, whilst waiting for the lessons to start. Now, lessons are supposed to start at 9. But we have arranged it in such a way that the first period we use it for orientation to the students, where they use for their snack, where they have to attend teacher's call and all that. Originally, we had them differently. So now that the sizes have reduced, and because of the safety protocols, we don't want them to be crowded.
Washrooms for teachers have now been allocated to students, and they are cleaned every hour. The school has procured spray machines to fumigate classrooms. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Well, so that's it. Latest news headlines we have, but we'll be back with the newspapers. Myself and joining me, Joseph Akable on stream. Stay with us. And of course, the newspapers will be dominated by related issues about voter registration, how COVID-19 rules or the protocols were abandoned or, thrown to the dock, so to speak. And what a way for us to start. Joseph Akable is joining me this morning. Joseph, good morning. I hope you slept well.
Good morning, Roland. I hope you're doing well too.
Yeah, Charlie, today your voice is down. Why? Your morale is down.
Oh, you're there. I mean, we won't do the registration, so they go.
Yeah, do you have a passport? Because I've been wondering, since you're underage, do you have a passport?
I'm not underage, and you are very much aware that I've been traveling around by God's grace sometimes. And so, yes, I have a passport.
You're trying to put me out. You want to disgrace me on national TV.
I'm answering your questions, Roland.
Yeah, and you are doing the Business and Financial Times. We also have the Finder and the rest of the new. Which other ones are you doing, Joseph?
And so I have the Business and Financial Times. I have the Finder, like you mentioned, and I also do that of the Ghanaian Observer and the Daily Dispatch.
Awesome.
I'll leave the Daily Guide and graphic to you.
Yeah, great. Can you do the first two? I'll do some others, and then you do the next two as well. Okay.
Okay. So first, with the BNFT, the front page, it says COVID-19 spares use of mobile banking, but customers still have cybersecurity concerns. On the front page, there's this story about Fidelity Bank attributing strong 2019 financial results to support of customers. And fluctuating oil prices put indigenous OMCs, BDCs in peril, also on the front page. And who wins presidential pitch 3 today is the question that the BNFT is asking this morning. The back page of the BNFT, it says ACH direct debit could help improve loan recovery. That's according to Gibbs. And seafarers need more recognition, also on the back page of the BNFT. I can move on and do the front page of the Finder now. It has the story that you mentioned earlier about the voter registration exercise. It says voters rush for cards, but many disregarded social distancing protocols. And CBG supports NDA with 50,000 cities to return over 500 KIA home. GMA laments lack of PPE, shortage of COVID-19 test kits, and compilation of voters register 30th June to 6th August 2020, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day is the advertisement put out by Ghana's Electoral Commission. And the back page, before you come in, Roland, of the final news, CBG supports NDA, that stories on the back page. And Ghana records 390 new COVID-19 cases. Recovery cases now stands at 13,268. I think you're referring to recoveries and discharges, standing at 13,268, Roland.
Yeah, I wanted you to add the discharges, recoveries and discharges. Well, so I'll do two more. So I'll do the Daily Graphic has on the front page, enthusiasm. Many turn up to register on first day. Social distancing protocols breached. We all do know that. A grave concern expressed by the Ghana Medical Association. COVID-19 private sector fund appeals for support, and we know that they are building that 100-bed facility in the Ghana East hospital premises, or on the Ghana East hospital premises. But up there we have the pictures showing COVID-19 protocols not fully being adhered to, even though you will not find it fully in the pictures. But the social distancing, Charlie, I don't know. Government's free water for all ends. What a bad way for me to end the month. I'm not going to get the free water again, so the bill will be coming. I've been thinking about it. Well, Electoral Commission 2020 voters registration exercise movement plan again published, the phase 1. So you just have to get onto the pages 22 to 43 of the Daily Graphic and get all the updates. But we also did have the chairperson of the Electoral Commission announcing what the plan is. She said it was also on their website as well. Political actions must lend credibility to electoral process. That's also in the center spread of the Daily Graphic. And then we do have on the back page, Euro gets boss redeems pledge to Upper West. Hands over customized ambulance. That's also there. But a story we also featured prominently in our bulletins in the early part of the morning of Tuesday. 10 died in another road crash in the Ashanti region. And this one near the Obuasi area, the driver was driving from Dunkwa Onofin towards Kumasi and had the accident at Awona, a town along the Obuasi-Dunkwa road. Very unfortunate, tragic incident there. Let's do the Ghanaian Times. And the Ghanaian Times has on the front page, voter registration takes us smoothly, but with social distancing, mask wearing concerns, and this is adequately captured. President also inaugurates 74.3 million Ghana City water project in the central region. That's also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. We'll deal with troublemakers at registration centers, the Greater Accra Regional Minister says, and who wins presidential pitch today. And that is on the Ministry for Business Development taking care of that, alongside the Special Initiatives Ministry. Meanwhile, Matters Day marked, we have 3 judges murdered 38 years ago, and they have been remembered. That is an event that the Ghana Bar Association makes sure that they don't ever gloss over. Every year they mark it. And I've always said that this is quite remarkable, very remarkable of the Bar Association. On the back page of the Ghanaian Times, whole resident count losses from heavy rainfall, and it's been raining every week for the last couple of months, as it is, because of the topography or the vegetative nature of the area. MOFA, that's the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Canadian government, they launched a 2.5 million Ghana Cedi program to support women farmers. That's also getting space on the back page of the Ghanaian Times. Joseph.
We can do the front page of the Ghanaian Observer, and that's of the Dispatch now. The Ghanaian Observer has this story about the registration exercise. It takes from the angle that it takes off smoothly, and COVID-19 fight, don't open borders, is coming from Guta. And I don't want to be winner of rigged elections, it's according to President Akufo-Addo, also on the front page of the Ghanaian Observer. We can do the back page now has this sports story about Jordan Ayew escaping red card after punch on Josh Brownhill. Archie Wright wins Player of the Season award in Germany, also on the back page of the Guardian Observer. And I'll end with that of the Daily Dispatch that says, voting pattern of Ketu South, the constituency at the center of controversy between NPP and NDC. The longest serving MPs in Ghana's parliament also on the front page, and Professor Alabi heads NDC 2020 campaign team. And Akufo-Addo can't force Auditor General to go on leave, is according to Professor Stephen Kweku Asari. The back page has the Ketu South story, and also go out and register. That's coming from the presidency. So Roland, you can continue with that of Guardian graphic now.
Okay. So I do have the front page of the Custodian. It's there. I don't need rigged election to win 2020 polls. Akufo-Addo, Alabi heads NDC's campaign team, and all of this. They have this great poster that has been captured on the front page. The Electoral Commission. It says compilation of new voters register. Everyone matters. And with this, we also on the AM show right here joining us. We encourage everybody as much as possible. If you have the document, you have somebody to guarantee for you. Make sure that you troop to those centers, but observe those COVID-19 protocols and go and register. That's on the front page of the Custodian newspaper. The Statesman says, smooth start for voters registration with few problems at centers. It has an attached picture of Mrs. Jean Mensah, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Chairman Wuntumi cautions against aiding foreigners to register. And down there, Mahama to scapegoat Alabi for likely 2020 defeat. But Joseph, what do we look to? What's your pick for the morning, Joseph?
I think certainly there are stories related to the voter registration exercise. I mean, what's your own assessment of it? I mean, we saw, I think we keep having the same issues every time we either vote or have a registration exercise. So we are looking at late starts, we are looking at the process being slow, we are looking at equipment that is not going to be functioning. I mean, I think those are things that we can easily predict for every such exercise. And so it's obviously bedevil the process, but there were some areas that recorded some significant numbers. We had that story that Ohimiteria sent us from Ejiso where the process was relatively better, but if you contrast that with the situation in Ododio where Maxwell was, where for close to 5 hours registration not started due to disagreement over the location. And so this is what it is. I mean, I think that what is worrying for me and Roland is the fact that people still do not understand how serious COVID-19 is. I think we've put enough blame at the doorstep of the security agencies and everything. I have seen photographs that one of our colleagues took from various centers here in Accra, and you see clearly that these are people who simply don't care. I mean, people who have taken off their masks, we're getting too close to each other, and I mean, there was a situation of water, people were actually fighting to decide, shoving each other to decide who gets into the queue first to register. And I mean, this is something that is even dangerous if we even want the police officers to even go in there and enforce the protocols. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know what's your own assessment of why we keep doing this to ourselves.
Yeah, it's quite a sorry state. The predicament we find ourselves is something that's a bit baffling. Baffling to me because it's not the first time that we've convened such mass events, i.e. the registration exercises or the compilation for the national identification cards, and now we're having an election coming forward. But what even makes me very pessimistic about the nature by which we have started this whole exercise is the way we have decided to just throw away all the related cautions. Because I think we should have anticipated that when we have such exercise, people take it seriously. They take it seriously because they have guidance from their members of parliament, the various political actors or state actors who make sure that they rally people because it's a time that they need to get their names on the register to go to the centers. And I feel that while we don't have to put more responsibility on so-called the national COVID team or the security officials, I think the blame has to, one, go to the Electoral Commission because we should have anticipated this. and know that people will be enthusiastic. And so the distancing and the responsibility of the maintenance of these protocols should be their own. And I think while the exercise may have been slow, but still went on technically, on the side of the public health concerns, the organizations like the doctors or the GMA, etc., are very much right. And I shudder to think what will happen, because we have transmissions, even though we say that there are recoveries and discharges making the bulk of the up-to-date cases. The transmissions are indicating that at the community level, the virus is there. Joseph.
Yeah, and I would want, I mean, beyond those in authority, I would want people to take charge of, I mean, matters. Because for the past few days, I have friends who I was with. I mean, fortunately, I was in mask during those periods and tried to distance myself. And I mean, they took the test like 10, 11 days back, and they'll come and tell you that my test results just came in and I tested positive. That is how real the virus is. And so the person who is in the queue ahead of you, you may know the person, you've been going to eat with the person that lives as your neighbor and everything, but the person may have the virus and you wouldn't know. And we don't want to get into a situation where we end up overwhelming our health infrastructure. At least with a new policy that we are rolling out, discharging people who are not showing symptoms and people who have exceeded 11 days, it's reduced the pressure, but it doesn't negate the fact that people are dying from COVID. And I saw a post from the Ningo Prampram MP Sam George about his friend who drove to UGMC, and he said a friend drove himself. So there was nothing wrong with him. He was in good shape. He drove there because he had tested positive and he died. That's how serious it is. And so we really need to be careful and mindful of that particular issue.
Yeah, because if you go to the National COVID team page, we do have confirmed cases up to date. And again, this is up to date, some 17,741. But we say we have recoveries and discharges of some 30,200. But having these active cases, and ultimately because of the delays in getting your test result, and perhaps also not now doing the test widely as we used to do at the beginning of the period, will mean that people keep transmitting. And you can imagine, you even alluded to an instance where friends would have to wait for 10 to 11 days before they get the result. What happened between that first day and the 11th day? It means that if somebody is vulnerable by way of their immune system, they could get the virus, right?
Exactly, and those people move around, they board cars to the offices, they work, they move everywhere. And it's because they simply are not showing symptoms. And so they don't even have reason to believe that they've, contracted a virus or have the virus. And so they end up infecting many others. And by the time that the results even come in, and so that also explains the point that the Ghana Health Service made yesterday at the news conference, that a lot of people who are dying are those who come in between 24, they die 24 and 48 hours after reporting at the hospital. It will make sense because if someone takes a test and after 10 days of taking the test, his result now comes in that is positive. What we need to understand is that he may have contracted it prior to even the 10 days, because the 10 days is from the day that the sample was taken. And so if he had contracted it 4 days earlier, it means that he has lived with the virus for 14 days before coming to the hospital, by which stage the impact on his lungs and the immune system as a whole would have happened already. And so when you go to the hospital, within 48 hours, if you are not strong enough, or if you've gotten to the point where the immune system is already given up, then there's little that can be done to save the person. And so the best would be for us to be very aggressive on the safety protocols to ensure that we just avoid contracting it in the first place. And live a healthy lifestyle to try and strengthen our immune system.
Yeah, it's a great worry for all of us. We'll see how we go with it. But at the end of the day, we know that we're all alone in this. We keep talking about it, but it's something that we have to take as seriously as we can. There's a story before we go on to myjournline.com that I want you particularly to give me some concrete focus on, and it's on the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, and it's a story attributed to the Professor Kweku Azar, even though we know that's not his real name, but it says Akufo-Addo can force Auditor General to go on leave. And if you go to page 11 of that story, and it's because it's been quelled from a post by the man himself, Professor Kweku Asari, And if you read it, he makes some poignant points there, and I'm sure that you've seen it as well. What do you make of it? And it's related to that statement that said 123 days leave outstanding. The Auditor General needed to take them.
I think the key point he makes in that write-up that captures the matter for me is the fact that he doesn't think that the Office of the Auditor General was created with the impression that it will become an employer-employee relationship between the president, who becomes the chief employer, with the Auditor General becoming his employee, such that if you wake up and our employers here at Multimedia feel that Roland Walker, you're not going for leave, they direct you to go on leave. He says he doesn't think that for such an independent institution, that was what the premise of the constitution intended to happen. Else you simply, sacrifice that independence. And so what happens tomorrow? The president appoints the Auditor General. We know that the president appoints the EC chairperson too. So we are about to organize an election, and the president says, okay, the EC chairperson, Jen Mensah, since taking office, has not gone on leave for 200 days. And so proceed on, take your accumulated leave. It obviously doesn't augur well. And so it's very worrying. And even the point I was making yesterday has to do with the governance looks, the looks that it gives it. And that is why, if indeed there was the need for someone to take the accumulated leave, there's a better way of doing it than a letter from the presidency asking that, proceed on leave. And the understanding we are getting is that he's approaching the retirement age as well. And the context, again, is relevant. If you recall, quite recently, the CDS, who was supposed to retire, was given a 6-month extension such that he retired sometime in January 2021. And people have made reference to that instance to show that this is someone who is even due for retirement. And so the individuals who are actually supposed to retire, we are giving them extensions, while there are those who we think that, okay, we have to ask you to take your leave. And that's why I was making a point yesterday, that why must he take the over 100 days at the same time? And so at a time when he is in court with a senior minister after issuing a $1 million surcharge, we know the disagreement he has had with the board chairman. We heard the board chairman actually say that he doesn't work with the board, and the board had reached out to him to ask him to take his leave, and he had refused. And all of a sudden, he says the board now informs the presidency of the situation, and the presidency issues that letter to him. In terms of the governance issues, it doesn't look well. And like I said, it only gives credence to the suspicion that there are persons in power who are not comfortable with the work that Mr. Domelevo is doing. And he himself had said that he's aware of a plot to have him removed. And so this is something that we shouldn't let happen. And a joke that was made by one of our colleagues in the legal fraternity was that, the statement quoted the Professor Mills precedent as
and it's in relation to the current chair, who was the boss at the time. His time was not due, was almost due though, but was not due, and should have been given the chance to finish off his term. And it looks like tit for tat. But I'm wondering.
Yeah, the point the lawyer was making was that in Ghana, politicians could actions of their opponents in the past as if it's a judicial precedent, and they actually respect that more than actual judicial precedents. Because once the quote is made, clearly that it's become something that they anticipate it becomes a political football game, and so they're already saying that, okay, you also did the same thing.
What I do anticipate those one day, if the NDC comes to power, they may do some reciprocation, I'm sure.
Obviously, it won't end it at all.
Well, we'll see how it goes. And Joseph Akabley, thank you very much. We're told that the 2020 league season is off. I know you love football, but we're talking the Ghana League here. It also means that it's done and dusted. We're off it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Ghana League. I was watching a few of the games, about 3 or 4 games, and so I think it's good it's been cancelled. I listened to Benedict. He'll bring some details later on, but we understand it would have cost each club about 60,000 to stage one football match.
Wow!
So obviously, this is not something that they could have afforded.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joseph Akabley. I wish you well for the day. I know that work is hectic these days, and God give you strength. But as we move on, let's wrap up with some look at what's on the homepage or the main page of myjoyonline.com. Is the foremost news portal currently, right now, progressively in Ghana. And the main story, daylight robbery and police on manhunt for motor riding robbers who gunned down the caretaker of the Bantama SDA church. The sad You move up. There's also a story about voters registration exercise. The EC impressed with turnout on day one. Well, what they shouldn't be impressed about is the flouting of the coronavirus rules, or the restrictions and the social distancing, the non-wearing of face masks, etc. What is also related to elections is I will hold you responsible for any mishap. As Asokore Mampong, MC to Asawasi Member of Parliament, Muntaka Mubarak had indicated that he had seen the signs. He was very suspicious of non-constituent residents or non-constituency residents or constituency non-residents being bussed to come and register in the constituency. And he believes it's all to show up votes of his opponent, now the main candidates in the for the MPP in the next parliamentary elections just in December. And he's raising concerns, and he's had a swift reply from the Asokore Mampong Municipal Chief Executive. Quite very fascinating there. Let's address all sources of tensions ahead of elections. And it's Anthony Forson Jr., the boss of the GBA, or president of the GBA, bringing that statement out, signing it adequately, and giving out those cautions to the political actors. 10 died in Gori accident at Obuasi Dunkwa, and Ghana's COVID-19 cases up by some 390. And we have to tell you, for the last 6 weeks, we've just not gone below 300, it looks like. We're just going there, 300, 400, 500, 300, 400. We're dancing around the tune of the cases. But the discharges and the recoveries, remarkably or coincidentally, also seem to be very good as well. So, well, all these stories are on myjournline.com, but that's where we have to do sports, and Benedict Owusu will be joining us with the latest. Now we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you sports.
Well, hi there. It's time to talk sports here on the Joy News Channel AM show. I'm Benedict Owusu. Always a pleasure joining you on this platform. This morning, we've got a lot to look forward to. Here on the local scene, we'll look at the Ghana Premier League, which has been cancelled, the 2019-2020 season. And then the Confederation of African Football yesterday took some decisions with regards to the Africa Cup of Nations and other major tournaments. We'll look at that as well, plus what happened in that game between Atletico Madrid, Thomas Partey's Atletico Madrid, and Barcelona, as well as what's been happening in the English Premier League and what is to expect tonight in the major European leagues. I'll update you all here on the show. But we have to start here on the local scene. The trending news since last night is got to do with the Ghana Football Association cancelling the 2019-2020 Ghana Premier League season. Of course, we all know due to the coronavirus. But, I mean, people have been wondering why it took the FA so long to take this decision. If you ask me, I think that, was coming, and it didn't really come to me as a surprise that the Football Association finally cancelled the Premier League. Well, joining me to do more on this is my brother, Jerome Mochri. Jerome, thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you and good morning.
Yeah, as I mentioned, for me, it didn't really come to me as a surprise. I don't know what you also think.
Oh, of course. I mean, there was no surprise in the announcement, because this is something some of us expected to come even earlier than it did yesterday. But we have to understand the FA. In as much as we are criticizing them for not announcing this cancellation early, we have to understand that it's a decision they needed to arrive at after broad consultations. I mean, even if it's not just the football clubs, they have sponsors, they have people that have put money into the various competitions of the FA, and they needed to contact them. I'm sure some of these sponsors do understand, what has happened to the world, but when contracts are involved, you have to still engage people and arrive at something that will be mutual. And I want to believe these are some of the things that affected the decision, or that made sure that the FA would take their time before they come to this point.
Are there any positives at all from this? I mean, some have said it could be a blessing in disguise, because that's something that we've always been clamoring for a very long time, is for us to have the same calendar as that of the Europeans and other African countries. And this, of course, could be a blessing for us.
Well, if we are looking at it from the synchronization point, I don't really see it, because I still believe that Europe is going to delay. I mean, as we speak, but for COVID, the EPL probably would have ended by now. The Champions League would have been played by now. I mean, all competitions in Europe would have ended by now. So I do not see how there will be that synchronization, because I don't know when Europe is going to start their new season. And that will mean that if we want to go with them, we will have to wait and see when they will do theirs, so that we also catch up with them. But we must have our own program. I mean, conditions here, conditions there are completely different, or have been completely different. And even under the circumstances of COVID, it has been extraordinary. I don't see how we are going to synchronize ours with them under the circumstance we have now. But I mean, something has to be done. I have said that the stakeholders of our game will have to go back, because the cancellation doesn't mean that when we are coming back, all the problems that necessitated the cancellation will be gone. We have to sit and discuss how we will play football with maybe minimum risk or zero risk.
And what could be the impact on this on clubs? I mean, there are major stakeholders in this.
The impact is huge. I mean, already these are clubs that do not have money. These are clubs that are not able to pay their players well. Even when we had, the season in session, some clubs were not able to pay players. So if for almost 4 months now we've not played football, and now the season has been cancelled, the impact is going to be huge. But I'm expecting to see the FA say something further than the cancellation, that maybe it has some package for clubs. I know that there was some engagement with government to see whether there could be funds or there could be something given to the clubs. It's going to be difficult, but then the clubs have to accept it. And talking about positives, look, in the overall picture, we have to understand that lives have to be protected. And if we will not play football and we'll have our lives, I think that will be a better option than playing football and putting our lives at risk.
And we have two teams representing Ghana. They made it clear in that statement, the story that they wrote on the Ashanti Gold.
You know, CAF have had their own problems. I mean, yesterday they also issued a statement giving some directives as to what's going to happen to some of their competitions. Regarding the CAF competitions and the participation of Kotoko and Ashgold, look, Kotoko have their own problems now. Kotoko is trying to put its leadership structure in place. I don't think it is an issue that Kotoko should be bothered or should be concerned about now. What's important is for the club to fix its leadership issues. And if there is the need, indeed, if there is the need to compete in Africa in 2021 or next year, that decision can be taken. But I mean, it was obvious that once the league is cancelled, the FA would have to look for, clubs to represent us in Africa. But I'm saying that, one of these two clubs have issues to sort out. For me, it would be important to sort those issues out and see whether or not it would be appropriate to go back to Africa as we have done. But you know that, going to Africa comes with a lot of cost. So many things involved. And I would like to see Kotoko dealing with issues at home first, and maybe consider that point about Africa sometime to come.
And for me, I'll not even be surprised if Ashanti Gold themselves say they won't get the funds to participate in Africa, because one, there is no money, COVID issues and all. Are going to take the money from to go and participate
but I'm not sure you can say that in the case of Kotoko. I've seen some Kotoko fans already celebrating, because no matter how bad or how poor Kotoko have performed in Africa in recent years, the fans want to see the club on the continent. And maybe it's a decision the leadership will look at. But I think that locally we should deal with our issues first. We do not have a CEO now that the board and Malaysia are trying to sort those issues out. I think that should occupy our minds, and we should deal with those issues first before we think of going to Africa next year.
All right, okay, John, thank you very much. The CEO issue is something we'll talk about later, not today.
Of course.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. So that was John Watcher joining me. Today a discussion of what's been happening in the last 24 hours with regards to the Ghana football league season. So the 2019-2020 Premier League season has been cancelled. No MTN FA Cup, no Ghana Premier League. As at now, the FA said they will go on and deliberate with sponsors as well as other stakeholders to see what they can do in terms of helping the clubs and all that. So we'll definitely keep tabs on this and bring you more in our subsequent sports bulletins. But in terms of postponement and cancellation of leagues, the Confederation of African Football, that's CAF, yesterday they also released a statement after an executive committee meeting with regards to the way forward for some of the competitions. And the Africa Cup of Nations, as you can see, the decisions that were taken, the 2021 AFCON has been moved to 2022. Also, the CHAN, which was supposed to be played in Cameroon, all the two games, the two tournaments supposed to be played in Cameroon, that also will be in 2021. And then the women's AFCON has been cancelled completely. So what it means is that Nigeria will become the longest holder of that title, having won it here in Ghana the last time. And then CAF Champions League and Confederation Cup semis with single legs. You remember it used to be two-legged ties, but now it's going to be one off. Then we are done. And Women's Champions League will begin in 2021. This is a novelty. The very first time it's going to happen here on the continent. And then the 2020 CAF Awards also has been cancelled. So it makes Sadio Mane the longest holder of that award.
And it's now time for business. And this is how we do it, because it's always brought to you by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. And as we move on, we're focusing on Ghana's aviation industry, but specifically domestic flights, because the sector, they've begun operations and threats of coronavirus are real as operators are turning their attention on profits to the ultimate welfare of customers. Now, Africa World Airlines has granted my colleague Charles Aite exclusive access to the strict safety protocol taken from the departure halls through to boarding as he experiences a flight on board Africa World to Takoradi. Here's more in this edition of AM Business.
Restrictions on movement has eased, and already domestic airlines are out for business.
This is Terminal 2 Departures Unit of the Kotoka International Airport. We're here on a particular mission. It's all about COVID-19 and the preparedness of the domestic airline sector as they open up to business. Remember that this is very crucial for them as it's going to test their systems and how prepared they are amidst the coronavirus. Already you could see from the ground the various food stamps that are indicative of social distancing protocol. Already you could see around me how less busy the entire environment is. It even raises questions about the entire anxiety that most travelers are having in these uncertain times. Today is going to be an interesting day. I'm going to be taking a trip aboard the Africa World Airlines plane all the way to their new Takoradi routes to get to know the social distancing protocols they are putting in place. It's going to be myself and my colleague from our sister station, Adum FM. Are you really ready for this trip?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
So what exactly are you hoping to see for yourself?
I'm trying to see that at least all the safety protocols that the President and the WHO have outlined will be in place.
That's great. So already we have our tickets for ourselves and we're ready to board. Come on board, let's see what exactly we're going to find.
We were granted access to the check-in section of Africa World Airlines. Here, passengers maintain their social distance. You will have to show your ID card to the attendant at a distance as they complete pre-departure formalities. For domestic airlines like Africa World Airlines, now is the time to win back the confidence of passengers. Profits are an afterthought. Sean Mendes is the Chief Executive Officer of Africa World Airlines.
We put in place a number of protocols. In fact, these are industry-leading protocols at various steps of the entire process, from when you arrive at the airport, where your temperature will be screened, where you will be ensured that you're wearing face masks, hand sanitizer is available at all various points. Your check-in process is contactless, where our staff do not come in contact with your documents. Your checked-in baggage is disinfected prior to loading on the aircraft. You go through a contactless security procedure and boarding. All passengers have their hands sanitized before boarding the aircraft. Crew maintain, again, social distance from the passengers. We have not allocated we ensure that no passengers have another adult sitting next to them. There are exceptions for children. Similarly, your bags are disinfected when they arrive at the destination. All in all, we've done everything we can to ensure that every step that we can take to ensure that passengers are flying safely with us has been taken.
So where do you see this in the short to medium term?
I think in the short term it's important that we get the confidence of the traveling public back. Aviation is the safest form of transport in Ghana, bar none.
Data from the Ghana Airport Company Limited show that since May 1, passenger turnout from Accra to the two major domestic destinations of Kumasi and Tamale spiked from nearly 1,850 travelers per week to almost 2,800 passengers per week. Sean Mendes says the attention of passengers have now shifted from the kind of meals they would have to be served on board to how many times the plane they board gets disinfected.
I think the main thing which has changed as a result of coronavirus in terms of operational procedures and what we've learned from that is that passengers now will place a much bigger emphasis on the safety and sanitary conditions than they did before. In the past, you would often get passengers who focused more on, what kind of food or snacks or drinks are available on board. Today, the question is more along the lines of, when did you last clean the plane? Do you have extra sanitizer I can use on my hands and things like that? So I think people's priorities have shifted, and obviously, as a service provider, we have to be able to change our operations to be able to deal with what's good both for the passenger as well as for society as a whole.
Making it to the boarding room, I see the departure hall of Terminal 2, which houses domestic flights with less activity. Basic security checks were done, after which we inched next to board the flight.
Here at the boarding room, you could see a very different arrangement in sitting. Passengers here are not sitting close to each other. They've spaced out actually. When you get to this particular point, for example, you can see this sticker here, please do not sit here. It's part of the measures that Africa World Airlines and in fact the entire Ghana Civil Aviation Authority is putting in place to ensure the social distancing protocols are observed. This is the first of it. We get to see the various steps that they've taken as well to ensure the safety of most of the passengers here.
Africa World Airlines takes up to 70% of Ghana's domestic airline industry. Management of the Ghana Airport Company Limited has initiated a number of mandatory COVID-19 safety protocols, such as wearing of face masks, the use of hand sanitizers, as well as physical distancing for travelers and the airlines to strictly observe. The various regulatory authorities such as the Ghana Airport Company Limited, the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority and the Ghana Health Service were all on duty to enforce the laid down procedures and protocols. After passengers are screened, they are shuttled by these two coaches to the airplane. These buses are not crowded. Seating capacity has been dropped by half. Few minutes to take off, these passengers are off to Takoradi in 40 minutes.
One interesting arrangement you notice in this particular plane has to do with the seating arrangements and the branded upholstery on the seats. Now, this particular seat has no branded upholstery except for this one. It simply means that this seat is out of service. Passengers cannot board this seat. And it's all part of measures to ensure distancing among passengers in this particular plane.
Seating arrangement all speak to social distancing measures. In fact, Africa World Airlines has reduced capacity from 50 to 24 passengers, less than half of its normal capacity. Touching down at the Takoradi Airport, a second phase of disinfection begins.
So for the smaller flights, it takes 10 to 15 minutes to get the plane ready for the other passengers leaving. And then at the end of the day, so before the flight loads in the morning or whatever time the schedule is, the whole plane is disinfected, sprayed, and then cleaned up. So when they come, they pick the passengers, it's cleaned again before they take the passengers. Then at the end of the day, total or thorough disinfection is done again for it.
But interestingly, don't you think others could be concerned about how this could affect the timing? It's going to delay flights.
Yes, that's why we try as much as possible to do it quickly. Yeah, so the staff are enough to make sure that things are hurried up.
Okay. So you've come, you are supervising this whole exercise. How is it going so far?
Yeah, so far I think they are doing well. Yes, the staff are quick on their feet and they make sure that no flight is delayed unduly.
This is the new normal. These officials are disinfecting every part of the plane, mostly used by passengers. Window slides, seat handles, everywhere.
Yeah, I feel very, very comfortable. Yeah, very safe. Yeah.
Before COVID-19, when you heard flights were opening, were you worried?
No, I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried because I knew they would practice the social distance, so I wasn't. In fact, I was happy.
Yeah. Africa World, they did their best from boarding to, from check-in to now, observing the safety protocols. So yes, I would say thumbs up, Africa World.
Any advice to prospective passengers out there who might feel concerned boarding the flights during this time?
Yeah, the skepticism is all over, right? It's just about what the president said. It's a matter of us taking our own personal health into our own hands and ensure we'll observe the protocols he outlined.
The future of air travel is bleak as the International Air Transport Association IATA, in its financial outlook for the global air transport industry, showed that airlines are expected to lose $84 billion in 2021. Revenues will fall by 50% to $419 billion in 2020 from the expected $838 billion in 2019.
But there are questions in place. What happens if this becomes a norm for the next few years? How could these domestic airlines survive the pressure of having to spend more and get little in return? Are they going to seek specific incentives from government, or will the entire business be crumbling in no particular time? I'm Charles Ayete reporting for Joy Business.
What a great ride. I am V. Charles. Should have been in the flight. Well, what a way it is. But it also means that gradually domestic airlines are bouncing back, and that's the new normal way of life. We're hoping that all of us would adhere to these protocols, just like the management of Africa World are doing to make sure they keep their customers safe. And talking about customers, we also do love you, our loyal viewers, and that's why we always want to bring you some great packages. And right here this morning, we're going to have an interaction with the Electoral Commission. We're going to look at how it is with the first day of the exercise and move on other discussions. It will be up next, but we have that conversation with the sports team, and we want to look at the state of our football league, which now has been called off 2019-2020, and how we also need to look forward to. But don't forget, Pimpolo is trending with his son, the new picture that he took, that she took, which has been trending, receiving great criticism. We'll speak to Bright Apia, Executive Director for Child Rights International, and other advocates right here on the show. But let's run this by you. Golden Figure Industries Limited is a fast-growing manufacturing company processing fruit into quality organic cosmetic products. And I tell you, they also do have cleaning and disinfectant products produced right here in Ghana under certified FDA conditions. They also do have in stock GF hand sanitizers, GF rubbing alcohol, GF Jettle antiseptic, GF multi-purpose liquid soap, GF hand washing soap, GF antiseptic cleaner, GF multi-purpose glass cleaner, and they are located at Giselle Estate, SCC, just on the Wager Road, DVLA. So make sure you contact them on the following lines, and these are the lines: 0546 27 4070 or 0546 27 3990. They also have a reliable landline, and that is 03029 57 950. Well, we have to take a break. When we come back, all these discussions right here for you.
1
disagreement and confusion. Woman who was hurling invectives at registration officials for the delay in the registration was nearly attacked by one of the residents. Many of the people gathered here had come at 4 a.m. to take part in the registration, but it delayed for 5 hours. A resident of Jamestown, Mavis, recently survived an accident. She now walks with the help of a crutch, but she's here determined to register.
I had an accident.
You had an accident?
Yeah.
Okay. And you came here to register?
Because I'm a Ghanaian, so I have to register. Yeah, I'm very, very confused because yesterday they said the boys was making routes here. Yeah. That's why they haven't started the thing. So we have to wait. They have to arrange everything nicely so that they will start the thing. 75-year-old Isaac Mensah has also been standing here for the past 5 hours.
The start is very poor because they're supposed to start at 7 a.m. and it's getting to 9. We are still here. No seat for us to sit on it. And you haven't tell us anything. It's better you come out to tell us what to do. Either we go and come in the afternoon or because we are wasting our time. Look here, let me tell you. I'm a Gold Coast man. Okay. I was born in 1945. And we know a birth certificate. Because we use birth certificate to acquire the Ghana card you're talking about. And now we are not using birth certificate. Most of the people here have got birth certificate.
Nyakaka chala ni nyankwa wabatola meko mana meko man bejiwo wabatola ke jalebi manke 5 o'clock ni watala mi ni wonpin nyakwa bo nyakwa chaka na ka jenye wo helalo awo helaka no afio.
Like in the coronavirus cases, and that's the concern she's raising, that the registration has not started and they've been seated here for so long and they've been compelled to sit together, here.
According to some representatives of the political parties, a decision by the EC registration officials to exclude some widely publicized registration centers caused the disagreement.
Behind me are the registration materials ready to be deployed. I've been speaking to the commander of the Ministry's police station, Chief Superintendent Asebunzo. He was in that meeting trying to resolve the disagreement between the political parties. He says they are ready and alert to call any violence that may erupt here.
The discussion had to do with some confusion that arose as a result of the review of the registration centers by the Electoral Commission. I think it was a bit different from what had been gazetted, and so it created a bit of confusion. Okay. But then after the meeting, it has been resolved. All the stakeholders have really understood what has happened, and they've all given the green light for the registration to start. We have had enough deployment of personnel here. As you can see, there are others that you can't see, and we hope that that will be enough to contain any issue that may crop up. But we are hoping that we have done a lot of education and sensitization, and we hope it will work. We are not expecting any trouble today, but if it does arise, we are ready to handle it.
I have also been speaking to the NPP constituency chairman, Sat Raymond Tete. He was also part of that meeting and has been talking to me about what caused the delay in the registration in this constituency.
This gazetted centers scheduled for the registration. Yesterday, when my party representatives came to the DIPAC meeting, we realized that the Electoral Commission is using centers different from the gazetted ones. Yesterday, my people pushed at the DIPAC meeting that the gazetted one should be used, but I think it was not agreed to.
Social distancing and all the safety protocols were disregarded. Some of the residents have been justifying their actions.
Distance that we are talking about. As at now, the program now started. That's why just we are organizing ourselves together. So after that, we let the social distance should be.
And it's the conversation we're having. We're having Look, a first day assessment of the exercise that took place, we're told that technically, yeah, the actions as to how the registration processes would go were okay, yeah. So I'll give that to the Electoral Commission. It's just that on the side, it's the maintenance of the protocols that we picked up on the ground that were not good, because this was even capped by us just making sure we got that letter from the Ghana Medical Association. Once that interception was done by Joy News, it also meant that it brought to a head what the concerns of the medical authority was, the related issues about how we need to make sure we keep this tight. So let's go on to the streams. We're going to talk to our correspondents. At the same time, speak to some great analysts on the show. But let's get to the Electoral Commission as well. Would want to speak to Mr. Michael Boedu. He's Director for Training, Ghana's Electoral Commission. And he will give us some great insight, because now all the directors are busy. The commissioners are all busy, and the commissioner himself is also busy as well, because from top to bottom, we need to make sure what is being done, whether it's the right thing, and hopefully whether we can get better on the second day. Let's get onto the streams and speak on Zoom to Rafiq Salam. And Rafiq Salam is going to give us the overview as to what we should expect on the second day. But the first day, what is his own assessment? He's on stream. Good morning to you, Rafiq. What would you say, by way of description, the first day has been like?
I would say to a very large extent, the one of the exercise was largely successful, because most of the centers that I visited in the one municipality and the Sisal East municipality, it was orderly. And then also there were some prospective personal protective equipment like the use of the thermometer gun and also the hand sanitizers. But the only worry has to do with the social distancing aspect, because you saw in the videos that we sent earlier how the people were crowded in most of the places. And so going forward, we expect that things like that should change for the better.
To all. Rafiq, I know what your own enumerations are, but because of the way the non-adherence were to the social distancing protocols and the rest of the COVID-19 protocols, it also means that perhaps we need to do a further assessment of it. How would you say could be the concerns or the reasons why perhaps we have the flouting of these regulations?
You know, I believe that these are things that all habits, they say, die hard. And so in the one municipality or the Upper West region is same. You know, we talk about the use of this face masks and also this issue of social distancing, which in this region, I will tell you that to a very large extent is not being adhered to. You can count out of 10 people, only one person who will be wearing face mask. You still have people being crowded. You go to a place like the War Market, it's business as usual. And so I believe that these are habits that we have carried into the registration centers, and then people are not adhering to that. Just this morning, I got to some of the registration centers, and it's the same. You can count as many as 40, 50 people. Only about 10 or so people will be wearing the face mask. And also the social distancing, there is not been adhered to. And it was even worse when it threatened to rain, and then everybody was running helter-skelter. And so even the people were crammed, they were packed like sardines.
That was quite funny though, but it's also because it's not a funny sight if you tend to look at the reactions from the Ghana Medical Association. Now, Ivy Setoji is joining us from the Volta region. And Ivy, where are the constituencies that you have your eyes on? Where did you go even the whole of Monday?
Okay, so I was at Ketu South, I was at Ketu North, I was also at Ketu Anroga, as well as Agotume, Geoffrey, and Akachi North and South.
Okay. I know that prior to yesterday, the main concern was the brouhaha the NDC had with the deployment, etc. First, would you say that may have dampened how the first day was expected to have looked like in those areas, Ketu South, Ketu North, and many of those related constituencies?
Well, not really, because what we saw yesterday, it was a bad sight anyway, especially at Akusa Park, where people were fighting as to who should register first or not. It was really a bad sight where officials tried to separate the fights. So with these things and these people not observing the social distancing, and the officials, because they were busy with the machines, are not able to. Some of the officials in some of the state police centers were not able to, educate these people that it was necessary for them to observe the social distancing and even wash their hands and wear the nose masks. It was really sad seeing these people struggling, fighting to register, ignoring all these protocols. So yesterday, in most of the places, but for Georgia, Ketu North, for example, at least they try to observe the social distancing. Yes. So yesterday, I think they should do something about the situation.
So, Rafik, I know that you're watching in there, Mr. Michael Buedu, he's Director of Training for the Electoral Commission. But Rafik, if people would have to obey the protocols, and based on your observation, would you say that the onus lied on the security personnel and officials of the Electoral Commission then, based on your observation?
Yeah, my observation is that the security personnel should be very strict, and also the people do the exercise also do same because the rule says that if you are not on face mask, if you are not observing these protocols, you should not be attending to it. So before you even get to the registration center, those people need to be driven away. Everyone, this council nuisance here in the municipality. But Ronald, let me tell you one interesting thing that's happening in the region. You know, the mop-up exercise of the national identification exercise is also going on. And so here, there's even confusion as to which one that the people should go for, whether to go for NIA card or go for the voter registration exercise. And so now, what people are now, the information people are now putting out, the political parties are now putting up on the radio, is that they should forfeit the NIA card and go for the registration exercise, which is much better. And so people are confused. They get to the centers, they don't know what they are up
to. Would you say that's the same observation, Ivy?
Yes, but in the places I visited yesterday, people were not ready whether or not to go for the NI card. But this one, I think the police should do a better job, because most of the places we visited, yes, on the screen, that's the Global Evangelical Church in Aflao. Most of the places we visited yesterday, we didn't see any police officer, trying to maintain order. It was only the officials there. We even saw someone who was there without the face mask, and they were trying to send him away. So I think the police and the EC officials should make sure that peace and order is maintained in these police centers, and the health officials should also make sure that the protocols are observed, because at times we are not in normal time, and it's really, really difficult. Yesterday, I was not really impressed of what happened. So I think something really should be done about this situation as soon as possible.
Well, that's and it's good that all of us are in this together, because we have to complement what the Electoral Commission is doing. This is the exercise that will enable us get the database for election 2020, and that's why having Mr. Michael Buedu, Director of Training for Electoral Services, comes in handy. Mr. Buedu, it looks like you have good accolades for the technical aspect of the job you did yesterday, and it is just the difficulty with maintaining the protocols. Initially, what did you set out to do when the SI started on Monday?
Yeah, thank you very much, Roland. We, with regards to the protocol, the plan is that applicants are supposed to maintain the 1 meter social distance requirements. But what's happened on the field is quite different. We have made provision for all the PPEs, for officials and even the applicants that will come around to have your hands sanitized and wash their hands before they join the queue. And the queue, they are supposed to maintain that 1 meter distance. What I realized is that we have 2-tier queue. Those who are, closer to the registration tables, they normally do behave or observe these protocols. But those behind, maybe a bit far away from the table and are waiting to have their turn, you really cannot control that queue. That is where the challenge mostly is. And I admit, yes, when it comes to the social distance aspect of the whole process, it has not been the best. And we really have to do something about it.
On the technical side, how would you assess it? Based on, because you are heading training, you've trained people, and you see that they may have undertaken some work.
Yes. The technical sides, you agree with me, we have not had any problem at all. A few problems do, but generally it's been very impressive. The machines, the devices have not given us much problem. We have spares, and so even where we have problems, we are able to replace them. And so on the technical aspect, I must say, we have done creditably well. Our officials that have been trained are also living up to expectation as of now when it comes to actually handling the actual process of registration. And so largely, we have done not bad at all at the technical aspect. But the other aspect of it is where we need to look at it seriously.
In all, how many of these classes did you deploy yesterday, and the numbers of personnel?
We deployed 3,500 clusters yesterday. And each of these clusters have 6 personnel. So if you multiply by that, you know the number we have sent out for today, for this first phase. The second phase, the numbers will increase.
Because I know from the initial period, we're told that you had trained about just a little over 42,000, right?
Yeah, there are about 44,000 thereabout.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, you said yesterday you deployed how many clusters and how many people? 3,500?
3,500. So multiply that by 6, and then I don't have my calculator here now, but that is the range.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Rafiq, complementing the words of the Director for Training for EC would mean that the technical side, it went well. What did you see in the first place? Or is Ivy still there? Ivy? Okay, we don't have Ivy, but we do have Anas Sabit. Anas, has Anas Sabit joined? Can you hear me? Anas?
I can hear you. Hello.
Great. Anas, the areas you went on Monday, what was the notable good signs you saw in terms of the technical side? Let's say the times that would-be registrants came in, and by what time did they finish with registration? And so let's say the allotted average time to be able to complete the whole registration process, and the other technical aspects that you thought were good.
Yesterday I visited about 5 constituencies out of the 11 constituencies in the Bono East region, the Techiman North and South constituencies, also the Kintampo North and South constituencies, and then I also visited the Nkranza North constituency. In fact, almost all the areas I visited, the EC officials go to the grounds within the time, I mean, between 7 and then 7:30. The place I went where I realized they got in late was around 7:38, thereabouts. And the process started quite early, as expected, with all the items expected from the EC to be brought to the grounds being in place, ranging from the Veronica buckets and then all the hand washing kits plus soap, water, and then tissue papers were all provided by the EC officials. Also, one positive thing I noticed is that all the registration centers I have visited, I see health officials from the Ghana Health Service on the grounds taking temperatures of registrants. And so that, for me, is one positive thing. I also realized that all the people I met on the grounds here in the Bono East region from the areas I have visited were on nose mask. I didn't see a single registrant in the queue without a nose mask. So that for me is one positive thing. From the start, I realized social distancing was, neglected in some areas in the Bono and the Techiman South constituency. But moving to the Techiman North constituency, I realized the EC officials, they did something very positive. They did some markings on the ground with some white paint, leaving distances between one registrant and then the other. So I didn't see people getting together as I saw in the Techiman South constituency. And the same happened in some parts of the Kintampo South and then Kintampo North constituency. Getting into the later part of the day, they managed to observe the social distancing protocols. But there were some few areas where the protocols, in fact, with regards to the social distancing, they still had issues. So generally, for me, from what I saw on the grounds, all the items the EC were supposed to do, all that the EC was supposed to provide were on point. There was no single area where there is a problem with the machines of the Electoral Commission or the EC not starting with the registration on time. But the key problem in some areas here in the Bono East region had to do with social distancing protocols, especially in areas that are densely populated. And that, for the Electoral Commission, is something difficult to manage.
Rafiq, on the technical side, how was the rate, the time that people would have to go through and averagely get registered? Rafiq?
Moving at a slow, at a snail's pace, and then also they were not really happy about how it was going because between 7 a.m. and up to about 12 midday, they were able to register about 55, 60, which is also not quite good enough. And so what the prospective registrants would like from the EC or the registration officials is that they should at least move a little bit faster than what we experienced yesterday.
Mr. Boydu, if you take the training that has been given by way of the technical aspect to your registrant, would you say by way of assessment in the first day, they went through these regimes adequately? Mr. Boydu, unmute your mic.
Okay, I'm okay now.
Yeah. Please start in response to my question, sir.
Okay. You wanted to know if the training that we gave them...
Yes, you gave them really training. Based on your first day assessment, would you say that, invariably, averagely, they adhered to your guidelines or your regime?
Yes. They did. Largely, they did. And that even explains why we really haven't had much challenges with the process itself, but the other aspects of it, the peripheral, we haven't challenging with, particularly with the protocol. But the main exercise itself, we really haven't had challenges. Yeah, some were complaining about late start of exercise. And you admit it's the first day and they probably had some teething challenges with transportation and logistics, but which has been sorted out now. So we are supposed to see a better attendance from today and then the subsequent days. It will be better than we saw yesterday. But concerning the actual deliverables, I mean, how well they are performing, I must say that they have taken what we told them seriously, and they are doing just that.
Across board, there seems to be the concern about not maintaining the protocols for social distancing and the others for COVID-19. Why that mass failure?
It really doesn't mark failure because on our part, we have put in place arrangement to ensure this. One of your correspondents did say that some of the places he went, we had marked the floor and ensure that people stay within the marks so they wouldn't be that close. That's what we have told our officials to do everywhere. Pages them paints to do the marking. And so on our parts, we have been able to put in place arrangements that will ensure social distance. But like the saying goes, you can force a horse to the riverside, we cannot force them to drink. So if you come to register and we say, stand here, and you ignore, and you want to come close and be crowded, it becomes a challenge. Now it borders on your person as a human being and as an adult. So that is why for now we are appealing to them that they should just be more disciplined and responsible enough and obey what we have told them. And if they fail to do that, then probably with the help of the security, we'll have to compel them to do that because this is a health issue. And we have to help ourselves in this process so that we will not be infected. And so it will not mark a failure on our part as DC, but maybe as a people, we have failed to be more responsible and disciplined in that respect. So yes, for the people, it will be a failure. Or us as an institution, I think we have done our best.
There is a concern that even though on your part, based on what you should have told them, you have, etc., the collaboration should have been deeper with the security forces, with the other stakeholders around.
Okay, you are right. We have, just before we even started this exercise, we had DIPAC meetings in all the districts with the political parties, and some of these things were discussed. With the security, yes, before the exercise, we had a series of meetings with them. But this is registration. It relates to elections. And sometimes if you use force too much, it might be misinterpreted. So the police are also cautious. And yes, just for now, we want to appeal to people to encourage them, to educate them to do the right thing. But if it is getting out of hand, I think you agree with me to be proper, that we compel people to do the right thing. And so, yes, the collaboration has been there, but we also want to, the security is also, they're also careful, want to make sure that we don't rock the boat and give the people the opportunities to register to vote, because it's about registration to vote. But if the people are making it difficult, I think then we will have to now compel them to maintain this social distance.
Anas, is Anas on? Anas is gone.
Yeah, Roland, I'm here.
How worried were you that voters or would-be registrants were not adhering to the protocols, and to what extent or how acute was it?
Personally, I was worried at the point. I felt the EC could have done better in some of the areas I have visited by at least barricading the area where the registrants needs to line up before they get into the queue. But in some of the areas I visited, there was nothing like that. People come, and then even though the EC provided some tents and then chairs for people to sit, people come, and then everyone wants to get under the tent And as a result of that, they completely ignored the issue of ensuring that they do not get clustered at a particular point before they get themselves registered. And in those areas, even though there were the provision of the Veronica Bakes and then the soap, everything, some might even get into where the people are, touch items they are not supposed to touch before they realize that there are Veronica Bakes placed at some point. So going forward, I wish what I saw in Techiman North, where the Veronica bucket is placed at the edge of the queue, and everyone who gets in there is instructed to wash their hands. The Ghana Health Service official, who is the one doing the check-in of the temperatures, is also right by the Veronica buckets. He takes the temperature of the individual before the individual has been allowed to join the queue. That I saw in the Techiman North constituency. In the Techiman South, I didn't see much of that. So going forward, that is something I wish they will be able to tackle. Apart from this social distancing issue, the people here have understood very well. In fact, they've been made to be aware that without the nose masks, you will not be allowed to register. So everyone coming in is on his or her nose mask, and that is being properly adhered to. One worrying development, Roland, I want to chip in quickly, had to do with the unavailability of sheets in some areas. I mean, roof. We are in a rainy season. This morning it's been raining since morning. And as a result of that, most of the registration centers will not be able to start until after the rain stops. And in some of the areas we visited in Kintampo South yesterday, whilst registrants were in the queue about registering, the weather changed all of a sudden, and then it started raining, and as a result, we have to disperse. And at the spot, social distancing protocols was completely ignored, and the process had to be restarted again when the rain went off, because they were under a tree. And so when it's raining, it's a problem, because the EC officials themselves didn't know how to move out their items to a place. One individual had to provide them space in his house to keep the items. So going forward, if those things will be able to be checked, else the process will be delayed. The 6 days that the EC have earmarked for each electoral area might not be able to be enough, because if the rains will be coming in and taking away some of the working hours, then it will be a big problem for the people in this area.
Rafiq, your response to the same question. How worried were you when you saw them? And also your reaction to what has been picked by announced on the first day?
The first issue talking about the non-use of the thermometer gun, because what transpired was that the early hours of the registration process, they were not using the thermometer guns at the handful of places that I have visited. And so when we made inquiries from the Electoral Commission, we were told that they were provided with the thermometer guns as at 1 a.m. Yesterday. And so the regional director did tell us that that one is not their responsibility, but they have gotten some nurses to be in charge of that particular area. But after 2-3 change. So that was really a worry to me. And then also, I must also comment at the people of Tumu, especially those at the Tumu Central Mosque, because when I went there, almost, I can say close about almost 99% of the people who were there were having nose masks, and which was also very good. One thing that we need to do more or need to better.
Well, we've also been joined again by Ivy Satoje. Ivy? Ivy? Ivy?
Yeah, hello, Roland. I can hear you.
Great. When you went round and you saw that the social distancing protocols, well, in your case, some of the few areas that you witnessed were not being maintained, how worried were you? How did we get the Electoral Commission officials trying to resolve the difficulties?
I was very, very worried, extremely worried, because in the south, especially in Ketu South, had the first case in the Volta region. And so I was very, very worried. So the third place I visited, I approached the EC officials to educate the people on the need for them to observe the protocols, especially social distancing. Especially when I saw people sitting on the bench very close to each other. I think as residents, we should change our attitudes and know that we are not in normal times and do the right thing instead of waiting for people, authorities to tell us what to do, because COVID is real and not observing these protocols, we are putting ourselves at risk. So it's about attitudinal change. Residents should be able to change their behavior in terms of these issues so that we are all safe. So I was really, really worried, especially in Ketu stuff. In Keta and Angoga, most people were wearing their face masks except the social distancing, of course. So, well, we just hope for the best as time goes on. We see what happens.
Mr. Michael Boydu, at the end of the day, we don't want to get the mindset that the Electoral Commission seems to be pushing the rest of the responsibilities on citizenry. And so, and that will mean that you have to refrain from using the words, oh, we have done our part. You're going to shy away from that? Is that the way you want to go now?
Well, this challenge really calls for collective approach. Yeah, the EC, yes, we are coordinating this whole activity, so we cannot take ourselves out of it. But we need the support of the security and the electorates or the applicants. All of us need to help in this direction. So maybe we need to take very, very tough decisions and to help everybody do the right thing. Yeah, so we will not isolate ourselves. It's an Electoral Commission activity. We are spearheading it. So, of course, we cannot we seem to be pushing blame onto others, even though we have done what we think is the best for us to do. But we still have to coordinate with all the necessary agencies to help us get over this issue. And it must be done immediately. So I'm sure between now and within a few days, we'll be having some serious discussions with the security because they can best help us do these things. And then we will come out with another approach. And I think we will see a better turnout.
Yesterday, there were a lot of information going on social media, and I even had some of my colleagues also posting that you can print one of the forms. Is it the A1 or so? And then when you fill, okay, so yes. take us through how expedient or perhaps swift can we do this process in the first place?
Yes, if you go to our website, you can print out the Form 1A, the registration Form 1A, and the guarantors form if you want to vote via a guarantor. And you complete it. If you want to do it, fine. You complete it and submit it to the center. When you get there, the registration officer will go through and see whether you've done the right thing, and then will ask you to. I said just click on print. You will fill it. You fill it there. You fill yourself. When you print out, you fill the form, fill it out, and then you go to the center. If you get there and the officer is able to establish that yes, you've done the right thing, go through and satisfies it, then you print in the presence of the officer. The officer also signs it, and you are good to go. If there's a problem with it, then you may have to fill a new form there. The officer will have to do that for you at the center.
And I see the form. That's what you call the so it has the applicant's personal data, and then the other related applicant's parents' hometown, etc. Why do you need my parents' hometown?
We need your parents' hometown because you are supposed to be a Ghanaian. So if you're a Ghanaian, you should have a hometown. Every Ghanaian here has a hometown. So where is your hometown? Possibly give us your hometown address so we will know exactly where you come from. If you want to do a follow-up later on, we can do that. It is all meant to help us establish that you are indeed Ghanaian. So if I should run you through what you are supposed to provide, just include your name, your date of birth, your house number where you actually reside, the place of residence, the district where you reside, and then your parental information, mother's name, father's name, and then your hometown and your hometown address. These are the information you are requiring from me.
If an applicant, as a would-be registrant, prints it in black and white, is it acceptable?
Yes, black and white.
Well, we'll try as much as possible display this form on the screens for you so that you get to know how it looks like, because we're all educating ourselves. Now, we have to wrap up, but before we do, let's look at the last round ahead. So this is what they call the voter registration Form 1A, okay? And it has a section for the applicant's personal data. Also has a second section for the applicant's parents and hometown address and other related information that is needed. And the section C is for physical or visually impaired persons who are the applicants or want to register. So makes a lot of sense. You can go to the website of the Electoral Commission based on what Mr. Michael Boadu, the boss for training for Electoral Commission, is saying. So in order to expedite this, the whole process, you print this from the website of the Electoral Commission. You can even keep one on a drive, give it to other people. You can print black and white, not necessarily colored. You fill it with appropriate information. Then you take it to the registration center. It makes it easy for you to go through the process as quickly. Now, my last round of questions, and it's very easy. Rafiq? Okay, Anas. How many people did you count or see in the areas that you went who were using the guarantorship?
Quite a number of them. A lot of people I have seen doing that, especially in the rural areas, the remote areas. Most of them were opting for the guarantor forms, but they were able to control the situation because the few ones who had, there was an understanding, the few ones who had their Ghana cards were the first to be attended to. And so they already have people waiting to use them as guarantors. So that made the whole process a bit peaceful in some of the areas I have visited. But yes, there are a host of people I've seen who were being, who filled the guarantor forms. Like the doc said earlier, there's a bit of misunderstanding between the people and then the EC officials with regards to the protocols. I want to add this quickly. I have seen little, or in some areas, just one police officer manning about 3 different registration points. So there should be that collaboration between the security and then the EC officials in enforcing the issue of the nose mask and then the social distancing. We know it is mandatory to be on nose mask. So if people are flouting that directive, something needs to be done in terms of the security aspect to ensure that others would also adhere to. Else, if you leave them, people would want to do what they want.
Rafiq, on your part, how many people were using the guarantorship system? Ivy. I think, Rafiq. Ivy. Do we have Ivy?
Hello, Roland.
Yeah. How many?
Yes, I'm here.
How many of the applicants use the guarantorship system?
Quite a few of them use that, and then some of them already had people who were there to ask their guarantors. So quite a few of them, we saw quite a few of them, and it was not that difficult. It was quite smooth at that time.
Well, last question for you, Ivy. We know that you have to go onto the field sometime within the morning. But let me just wrap up with you, Mr. Michael Boadu. This guarantorship system that you're using, How easy have you made it on the ground based on your first day's assessment?
Okay, quite a few people did register through guarantors. If I should give you a few statistics that we have received so far, for OT region, for instance, out of the 5,865 people that registered, 653 did that through guarantors. In fact, 5,198 registered using the Ghana card, and just about 14 used passport. And so bearers of Ghana card appear to be more than even the guarantors. Maybe the paradigm might change in the course of the period, but for now, those with Ghana card appears to be registering a lot more. And it will be understood because they have to do that first so that they can be in the better position to guarantee for those who don't have the other required identification cards.
In a situation where somebody's guaranteeship has brought somebody to the center to guarantee for him, and we know they are representatives of the political parties and other community stakeholders around, and they disagree with it, what intervention can you do?
You cannot disagree on that basis, because the guarantor, once he or she has satisfied the condition, and the only condition here is that you should be a registered voter, or you should be a registered voter under this present dispensation. So if he's gone ahead to register, and when he as a guarantor, as a voter, registered without any challenge, and if it comes to guarantee for somebody, you cannot challenge the guarantor. No, you can only challenge the applicants, and it must be on other reasons, not that he's gone in for an unqualified guarantor. Because the guarantor, once he has the voter's ID card issued yesterday, then he is qualified to guarantee for whoever he chooses to. And so you cannot really question that. The law doesn't allow for. What you can do is to challenge an applicant because of other reasons. Maybe you think he's not a Ghanaian, or he's not of age, he doesn't reside in the area, and things like that. Yet you can go ahead and challenge the applicant. But for the guarantor, no, you cannot do that because he has passed the test, which is to say he has registered as a voter and has a card already. Yeah.
They are the border towns, and I'm asking this because it's a very sensitive area. There are border towns in which people prefer to go to school on the other side, but they may reside or have residence either intermittently on the other side. They want to come and register, and maybe they are within the jurisdiction. I have seen videos of people trying to test them with English and some local language, etc. Is that one of the means that you have certified to disallow people from registering?
So, let me take you through the challenge process. If you have reason to believe that an applicant is not qualified to be in the register, you just fill a challenge form. And then there will be a committee that will be formed. And this committee will now investigate and make a decision as to whether the applicant qualifies or not. And so we cannot, at the spur of the moment, during the registration, just look at the person's face, and say, no, you cannot register. All that you need to do is, fine, you want to register, I'm challenging you. Let's go through the process and let the district registration review committee sit on the case. And then they will now investigate and ask for evidence and witness. So they will be in a better position to take a decision as to whether we shall allow you to be on the electoral list or not. And so it will not be proper for someone to use a donation of an applicant just to say, I'm not registering you. In fact, you cannot just say by a word of mouth, I'm not registering you. You have to go through the registration process and put it on paper, and everybody signs it, and the committee will be the one to make that determination whether the person is qualified or not.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michael.
And if I may go further, the committee is made up of representatives from the political parties that are active in every district. It also includes the district police commander or his representatives or her representative. It also includes the traditional authority would need to get a representative, and then the head of the educational, the DES, the district director of education, or a rep will also be on that committee. And our district electoral officer is a member secretary on that committee. So these people will form the review registration committee, and they will sit on all the challenge cases that we will record during this registration. And their decision would have to be complied with by the commission.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michael Buedu is Director for Training, the Electoral Commission. And thank you for your dedication to us each time we call on you and the rest of the team that you have at the Electoral Commission head office. But we also have Rafiq Salam joining us, Anas Sabit also joining us, and then also Ivy Setoji helping us. And they are going back onto the field to monitor the situation. So we'll come back again at 10 and then 12 to give you more updates before the subsequent bulletins and program we have on the channel. We're taking a break. When we come back, we're having that sports conversation. The Ghana Premier League has been called off because of COVID-19 related issues. But we also do know that on the continent, CAF also has made some decisions regarding the African Cup of Nations and the other tournaments on the African football calendar. Our sports team, and then also some of our sports enthusiasts and guests we have in the studio will help us with the discussion. Also, don't forget, Ekuapin Polo is trending, and it is because she decided to post a picture nude of her and her son, and it's apparently sent tongues wagging. We already do have Child Rights International, and Bright Apia will be right here in the studio. We'll have our Aidam, who is an online safety expert and works with a think tank that works in that field. And even the ministry, they are all agitated. We'll look at all these next. I will spend the next 10 minutes looking at football because now the decision has been made, and that decision point had to be arrived at looking at many factors. And the 2019-2020 Football League season right here in Ghana has been scrapped as a reality. We're not like England and the rest of the countries in Europe, so we can't keep up with the pace, but for good reason. So we have Eko Asma, an experienced football enthusiast, great writer, journalist, and also sports entrepreneur, and he's on stream. Good morning to you, Mr. Eko Asma. Okay. And then we also do have Benedict. So Benedict, good morning to you. You're back.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, great. Okay. And let me start with you, Benedict. What does this mean, this decision to scrap the Football League season?
Yeah. And before today is Eko's birthday, so let me wish him a happy birthday, Eko Asma's birthday. So happy birthday to Eko Asma, who join us. I mean, in terms of what it means for our football, it's straight away. There is not going to be anything in terms of football for us in a league or the MTN FA Cup, as well as the Women's League. So everything related to our local game is gone for the year 2019-20 season.
And this will have some great effects. What will be the effect? Ms. Asma, have you joined us?
Yes, I am on it.
Okay. What will be the effect of the scrapping of the season on football generally in Ghana?
Well, thank you. Number one, Ghana's best, Benedict Owusu. Thank you very much for wishing me a happy birthday.
Yeah, myself too. Happy birthday to you, Eko Asma.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I hit the double five today.
Wow. You still look good. You still look good. That's a good one.
Well, first of all, relief. Relief to all the football teams, the coaches, their managers, the playing body, and all that. Because it brings conclusion to the league. And it ends the confusion as to whether or not, and the uncertainty as to whether or not it would happen. And this is the great stamper to me that the GFA could not figure out. In dealing with the corporate world, they need certainty, not uncertainty. And it affects your proposals to these corporate entities for sponsorship. They don't need uncertainties. They need to know for a fact, dates, times, figures, all certain. So all that while when I would keep seeing certain figures within the FA hierarchy going from one company to the other, trying to keep sponsorship, I knew they didn't know better because of the uncertainty. You have to have specific dates and times and schedules fixed so these corporate entities can plan and then know exactly if they're going to go into it, what dividends they're going to be getting, and they can plan around it. So this brings certainty to the league. It's ended. Now, when is the next league season going to start? They have to start planning on that quickly to communicate it to the public so that the corporate entities would know, and then it will help the FA try to get some sponsorship. So finality to the anxieties, to the lack of planning on the part of the players, the coaches, the managers, and all that. It's good. Finality has come, it's gone. And then safety for the public health, because the FA was not in any position to be footing the bill of the testing of the players and all that. So it's great that now we can plan towards the next season, and then FA will still need some help from the government. I know the clubs will still need help from the government, and particularly regarding the area of club licensing regulation. It gives the FA and the clubs an opportunity to fix all these imperfections around the league that would help the fans. Because you don't want fans to go to stadia and come home to their families with sicknesses. So I think, in my estimation, it's a great outcome. As we have right now, we have our clubs that are going to be competing in Africa. There is certainty. You know, Kumasi Asante Kotoko is going to go to the Champions League. Asgold is going to go to the CAF Champions League. The management can begin to prepare now. So there is certainty, and that's great. It will be a good lesson for the FA to learn this quickly, that all those haphazard and the uncertainty surrounding their decisions and all that do not augur well, and does not help them get sponsorship. So in a big way, it's good that it's ended. It's certainty. Now we can start planning for the next year.
Right. But Benedict, we know that this has also exposed how badly we are poor when it comes to the financial side of in our football, right?
Of course. I mean, you look at what even happened when the sports minister met the media on one of the COVID briefings. He mentioned that it was going to take each club 60,000 Ghana cedis to stage a game. And when I look at our teams in the country, how many of them can you say out of the 18 Premier League teams can dish out 60,000 Ghana cedis every match day to test players, to go through all the protocols to have a game played? I'm not sure even the Accra Hearts focus and take over can say yes, maybe they can do that for 3 or 4 games, but to go through the stretch and the number of games left to be played, that would be very, very huge in terms of the financial burden on these clubs. So, I mean, at that point, when that was mentioned, it came to me that, you know what, this is it. This is where we are. And it's really difficult in terms of, the financial aspect to get a game back. So why not just call it off? And that's exactly what they've done. And this shows how, gradually, and what we've always been talking about in terms of the financial aspect of our game, which is very, very down and low. Because if our clubs were in the position of some of the top clubs that we've seen elsewhere playing their respective leagues, they would have played the league. But in our case, the money is not there. The purchasing power that's there, the money is not there for our clubs to dish out in terms of everything that they have to do in the protocols and testing of players to get a game back. So it's something that is worrying.
Ms. Asma, how do you think we can bounce back, knowing what the Europeans have gone through to try to resuscitate their game?
Well, it all depends on integrity. You need a foundation of integrity to bring money into it. Like Benedict was saying, because they don't have money. You can never have money if you don't have integrity. No corporate entity will give you 1 cedi if they don't trust you. For instance, recently when the FA went to the Congress, page 22 was missing from their financial statement. It doesn't inspire any confidence that you can be trusted with even 1 cedi. The game will continue to be poor. The clubs will continue to be impoverished in the absence of strong corporate interrupting games around Europe. How much it costs some of these clubs. And yet they are able to continue because of broadcast revenue, even without the fans. So we have to get to a point where we will innovate and will not necessarily have to depend on gate postage. Because that is just so last century. I'm surprised that we're still doing it now with people that supposedly are supposed to know. They're acting with the same archaic method. You cannot depend on gate proceeds. Even the environment does not augur well for spectators to keep coming, even with the gate attendances, to give you more money. That's why I mentioned the club licensing board. They ought to be very strict. That's where I expect that the state should be able to help the club, not with that cash into the hands of the owners of those clubs, but in providing the basic infrastructure that will guarantee safety at the stadia, so that spectators would feel comfortable bringing their family along, increase economic activities, plus make more money. The government will also make some more money in terms of taxes coming back. But in order to increase money at the gate proceeds, the stadia have to be safe. And the clubs as is right now don't even have the money to make sure they can guarantee safety at the stadia. And because of all of this, they're not going to get the sponsorship.
Yeah.
So the most important thing going forward is that the FA should be very serious for the first time, insisting on certain basic infrastructure at the venues where they expect people to bring them money. If you take care of the customer will bring you the money. That's the basic. They got to get that in their head and not be chasing the money.
Yeah.
Because all this while, their primary objective is to make money.
Yeah.
Without regard to the customer that will bring you the money. So that's what they have to get right. If they don't have integrity as their foundation, our clubs are going to continue to be impoverished. More of the youth will continue to snub the game. Look, when I was about 9 years old, I used to go to the stadium all the time with a lot of my friends. Now this revenue base is missing from the club's finances. If you check the attendances at most of the various stadia, you see that the age group, the demographic group, is between 25 and 35. You lose out all the 9 to 20 years age group. They don't go to the stadia.
Okay.
So, and then you don't inspire a new generation of supporters over the years. That's revenue lost every week, and it can run into millions.
All right.
Bottom line, the managers of the game, the FA people, should forget about chasing the money and start with laying the foundation of integrity, and then the money will come.
Awesome. Well, that's where we have to end the conversation. Benedict also thank you for joining us for the kind of contribution you've made this morning to this this discussion. I know that we're going to feature more of the subject subsequently on sports, on regular programming on the channel, but that's where we have to bring you the latest in showbiz. And Kadi is around here next.